What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Tier Eternity Season 3. This is actually going to be 3 episode reviews because we weren't able to do it the past couple of weeks. But yeah, with me as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yeah. Well, this pretty much continues on with Fushi's quest to go after the Knockers, in which, well, unlike the Knockers we've seen back in previous seasons, which were like these big parasitic, ball-shaped things. Now they're just like literally just microscopic organisms inside, well, laying dormant in every single human on the planet now. And these past 3 episodes, we learn like a lot more of what has happened over the course of the years of what's become of the Knockers since then, especially with what was it? What was it? I forget. Mizuha.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was episode 9. We catch up with Fushi trying to go after the Mimori Knocker. I mean, if we remember, like I think Hiro like was the one who came up to Fushi, asking to help out with the Mimori Knocker because he knows that this is not the same little girl that he took care of, back then. And we also learn a little bit more about Mimori, but before her entire body was taken over by the Knocker.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is going to kind of be, I guess, somewhat of a common theme with the Knockers, that a Knocker who was taken over or is at least partially merged with a human. So apparently, like, Mimori had been, like, I guess, somewhat neglected by her mother. And it is kind of surprising because, we don't really get a lot about her mother, but now we get to know that her mother, I guess, was pretty neglectful of her daughter and didn't really look after her. So because of this, Mimori was just kind of depressed and basically got to the point where she essentially wanted to die. And because of this, the Knocker, it sent out some kind of a signal to the Knocker and allowed the Knocker to basically take refuge in her body. And I guess in a way, she, because of Mimori just kind of wanting to die, it basically, that's why she threw herself off the roof. And after this, the Knocker just takes full control over her body. Mimori's soul is, of course, no longer inhabiting the body. Now the Knocker is fully in control of her.
Yeah, of course, Mimori's soul is still wandering about instead of moving on to paradise or the afterlife. So Hiro goes up to Fushi. Actually, no, they end up confronting Mimori's Knocker out at the schoolyard, and it gets into a long extended fight. At first, before Hiro confronts the Mimori Knocker, and he does his best to try to he tries talking to it at first, but then it gets to the point where he literally wants to force the Knocker out of her body so his sister can get her life back. Of course, he gets brutally beaten by this Mimori Knocker over and over to literally just beating him to a pulp, including ripping off the top part of his hair too.
Yeah. I mean, he gets beat up pretty bad. He's pretty much looks like he's almost on the verge of death. At one point he gets thrown all the way into a building, but somehow he's protected by what was it? There's I don't know if it's futons or something. Something cushions the impact so he doesn't just immediately die. But basically he just takes all this abuse, and Fushi wants to intervene, but Bon holds him back, and he ends up just eventually asking Fushi for help, and then Fushi tries to intervene. And then this is kind of where the episode just, I mean, I didn't expect this to happen. The Mimori Knocker basically gets beheaded by a character that I don't know if we've even seen her before. She just kind of comes out of nowhere and beheads her. And apparently this is another knocker, I guess, that has its own agenda, or its own will. I kind of figured the knockers were almost like a hive mind, but as we've seen like these 3 episodes, the knockers, I guess, have like somewhat evolved to now they're now they have their, it seems like they have their own individual will or things that they want, like as opposed to before where they just kind of acted almost like essentially like zombies. But now they're capable of like communicating and having their own thoughts and feelings and things they want, I guess. But
Yeah. And
yeah, we're still not exactly sure what the deal with this girl is. But she's been taken over by, I guess, by a knocker, and she's ends up basically like killing the memory knocker.
yeah, just basically just incinerating it to death.
Yeah, because
And
it
then
tries to
that's
like
when
grow its body back or something. Like it grows arms out of its head, and then she just like throws it into a fire and kills it.
Yeah, and then of course Fushi revives the real Memory afterwards. Of course, if we remember Memory's soul, like after witnessing her brother getting, physically abused and beaten down by the Memory Knocker, it convinces her that that she wants to live afterwards. So she regains her body soon after this. And then we move on to the next episode in which Fushi tries to investigate what was going on with that knocker girl with the Naginata. So he confronts her, but this girl, of course, feigns ignorance, and then that's when Mizuha and
Well,
her friend,
I don't know if she
walk.
necessarily feigned ignorance. I think she literally doesn't know. Because what's going on with her is the same thing that we've learned is going on with Mizuha, where there are certain points where I guess the knocker fully takes control of their body and that they have no idea what happened. But then their human self still has like partial control of their body.
It's hard to tell because you can't even tell like who's really in control at the moment, especially once Fushi confronts both her that girl, that knocker girl, and of course Mizuha out in the park, or I think somewhere in the park, I think.
Well, they're in some kind of like a tunnel. But yeah, like we learned apparently that this girl had the same desire, basically like as Memory, that she also wanted to die, and that also Mizuha also wanted to die. And that's like a common thing. Like they all wanted that, and that's, I guess, allowed the knocker to take over.
Yeah, and then this, of course, what's surprising is like Mizuha ends up stabbing this girl, and then of course she instantly revives soon afterwards, and then the knocker half of Mizuha ends up taking over, and basically just reveals everything to Fushi of what has happened over the years ever since season 2 ended.
Yeah, basically like what happened with like you mentioned, like it was season 2, like with what happened with Kohaku, and how like Kohaku tried to kill it off, but it survived.
Yeah, I mean Kohaku basically just dove himself into a fiery pit.
Yeah.
And for some reason that his knocker like ends up surviving afterwards. This knocker in Mizuha explains that it had the chance to go into the afterlife, but then it chooses not to. So it transforms itself into a microscopic organism that somehow gains residence at Mizuha's place. And then of course it inhabits her body soon afterwards. But it lay dormant over her childhood. But then over the years, as we know, like during Mizuha's adolescence and her time, succeeding and stuff, it got to the point where that if she, like you said, like she wanted to kill herself at one point, and that's when that pretty much clicked at the knocker that it wants to take over her body soon afterwards.
Yeah, and that basically explained like why after she like killed her mom, she had no memory of it. The knocker just took over and just killed her mom. Same thing happened here where she killed this girl, and then of course afterwards the girl revived because the knocker was also inside her too.
Yeah.
And we learned that like the apparently this girl also has affections for Fushi as well. And I don't know, like I don't know if that's going to come into play at some point too, but yeah, like we see that like Mizuha is also just completely like, she's, I mean, even without the knocker, she's completely just obsessed with Fushi, and similarly to how Hayase was.
Yeah. I mean,
And
you,
this
you
just
can see.
completely, like, I mean,
Yeah.
Fushi's just completely freaked out at this point. Like he's just getting flashbacks of Hayase, and he just, he can't deal with it, so he just kind of runs off. And eventually, like, he literally like runs into Tanari. And this is another thing, like I've brought this up before, but I'm just kind of annoyed that they're kind of like addressing this now. That Tanari, I guess, realizes, I guess, that she has like maybe some kind of unrequited feelings for Fushi or something. And she's like trying to, I guess in a way, like trying to come to terms with that somehow. But she tries to stop Fushi and help him. But he tries to run off again, and then he runs into Bon, who also like tries to like get him to come back to his senses, I guess.
Yeah. And then of course, Mizuha, um, of course, upset with the whole incident, at under the bridge, or whether that tunnel, or maybe it was a tunnel. I can't remember what it was. She runs into her mother. Well, of course, her knocker version of her mother, and then that's when Fushi like ends up confronting the knocker inhabiting Izumi's body, which of course transitions into the next episode, in which he's trying to to, I guess, in a way, incinerate the knocker inside of Izumi's body. But of course, uh, Mizuha ends up pleading with Fushi not to do it, because and then of course it gets to the point where Mizuha likes this version of her mother instead of her original mother, and of course that ends up hurting, the spirit of Izumi, who ends up witnessing this whole thing. So
Well,
because of
she
this,
also like was there when Fushi encountered her in the tunnel, and where she
yeah,
like started like venting about how she didn't like that her mother was basically like just making her live a life where she was like miserable because her mother is just like wanted her to be great at everything, and that was like kind of the reason that like what drove her to want to commit suicide.
yeah, of course, there's a reason. There's an explanation from Izumi as to
Yeah, because
why
of course we eventually
why.
end up having to learn about her, like tragic past, and that there's kind of like there's like a whole reason why she wants her daughter to be that way.
Yeah, and so it also goes back to her childhood of her being like, what was it, the 17th successor to Heisei's bloodline. Of course, she just wanted to be unlike the previous iterations, she wanted to be a little bit more independent, from that whole religious group. And she initially didn't want any part of it, but she was in- inevitably forced into it by her father. So, and then of course it gets to a breaking point where her father tries to force her into an arranged marriage, in which she pretty much refuses and then just runs away. Um, and then of course she ends up marrying someone else. But we find out that this other person was also affiliated with with
The Guardians.
with the high state bloodline, yeah, with the Guardians too, which of course upsets her that this happens. And of course, her father just repeatedly just makes several attempts to come back and convince her and her newborn more newborn daughter to come rejoin the Guardians. But of course she tries every single way just to try to keep that from happening.
Yeah,
And it gets to the point where it stresses her out so much that she has what was it, like stress induced amnesia. So it explains as to why she we initially saw her taking selfies over and over and over again is because she was trying to keep a record of everything that you know both of what Mizuha is accomplishing during her childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, so that basically leads to her, like, Izumi just basically, I guess, accepting her fate that I guess Mizuha wants the Knocker replacement as her mother now. So she decides that she's just going to walk away. But Fushi tries to convince her not to. Well, Fushi and Vaughn try to convince her to stay. And Fushi said, we learned basically as well that apparently the Knockers have, from Bond's dead, like, friends, that they followed the Knocker Memory into an underground area, like deep in the sewers, and that's apparently, like, I guess where all the Knockers have been hiding out. And the Knocker version of Mizuha is like in control of this, like, some kind of like religious order, I guess they have, of Knockers, and that are just hiding out deep in the sewers, and that's how, like, Fushi was unable to detect their presence. And Fushi says that he'll go after the Mizuha Knockers and all the Knockers that are hiding out there. And Izumi just basically, it seems like she's just, like, sort of resigned herself that she's going to that, I guess that Mizuha, like, no longer wants her anymore. And yeah, that's kind of where we leave things. I mean, that we see Mizuha living with her Knocker mother, and I guess sort of like accepting that she has, like, the Knocker within her and all that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The plot is getting a little bit more interesting now that we've these past 3 episodes, especially with Fushi sort of, I guess, questioning whether or not he should actually go through with killing the imposter Izumi, and if, like, that since that's not really what Hayase wants, or not Hayase, but Mizuha.
Yeah,
and he's like, sort of like having, I guess, sort of like conflicted about what he should do. It seems like there's some kind of development in that regard with Fushi, and also, like, it seems like we're getting some, I mean, kind of long overdue development with Tonari as well. Like I said, I feel like this should have happened, like, way back, and it's like, I mean, I'm glad it's kind of happening now, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. I guess the whole reason for that is just because of it almost, like, stems from her jealousy and her, like, being suspicious of Mizuha in the first place. But I feel like it should have already happened by now.
Yeah,
but
I mean, she was mostly absent for much of season 2, and then
yeah,
like we've like, even though, like, she's been brought back, like, at the start of the season, like, she's barely been around him for most of that time, and, like,
it's like
he's just basically just been avoiding, like, all of his friends that he revived, ever since they got there.
It's just weird, like, it's like now all of a sudden she decides that she has her own agency and wants things for herself. I mean, we do kind of see, like, Fushi's other friends going off and doing their own thing, but we don't really get a lot of, like, how they feel about something. Like, they're just kind of in the background for the most part, and that's kind of what I had an issue with, like, after he was able to bring everybody back, that it's just they were kind of, like, around when the plot needed them to be. Other than that, they're just kind of, like, I guess, either doing their own thing or just not really doing anything.
I mean, they literally died for Fushi, like, helping him defeat the Knockers back in season 2, and now, like, all of a sudden they're just not, they're just almost non-existent in the plot line outside of Bond being around him. During with this
and it's like Bond is just sort of there to, I guess, make things happen, or to like set things up. It seems like he's just that's all he's really there for. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is kind of going in an interesting direction. But I am just kind of wondering what's going to happen with Fushi and what he's going to ultimately, like, end up doing with Mizuha. Or if, like, Mizuha is just going to suffer the same fate as all the other Hayase descendants. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't really have much else to say, though, about these last 3 episodes. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
I thought, the last 3 episodes had definitely had better plot development. Definitely picked up a lot ever since the whole Knocker situation got brought up again, and now we're understanding more of, like, what's going on with Mizuha, like how she's dealing with it. I think she's pretty much accepted the knocker at this point, which is something that her mother Izumi has been trying to avoid all this time. But of course, it was mainly due to her unwitting negligence that that she got her into this situation in the first place.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, so that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.